Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the Algorithm Fantasy Studios. I am Jamie, and that is Eli over there on the other side, doing all kinds of weird, little funky, weird things with the fingers. But welcome
Psychedelic.
in. Welcome in. It's actually Wednesday night. Although I was about ready to say Tuesday night, but it's actually Wednesday night. So, but yeah, actually, it's a nice Wednesday, 59 degrees up here in the great South Dakota. So, which is better than we had yesterday because it was rainy all day yesterday.
Ah,
Oh, yes.
there we go. Pete Nova. Bub means
Yes.
Bubby. He's coming. He's coming tonight. Jay has been doing his little monologue there, and I had to jump in because I'm pumped. Maybe in my top 5 team list, maybe my beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be somewhere in there. Maybe the Cowboys too. Maybe they could use Bub Means down in Dallas. But for the meantime, though, we got to do things right. We got to start this show off, in sequential order. Of
Yeah,
course,
unfortunately.
go and watch any of the previous college spotlights we've done on YouTube. Jay's created a nice playlist. Man, we got the draft coming up next Thursday. Got like 8 days left, so we probably only have time for one, possibly 2 more spotlights. So if
That's pushing it.
yeah, that's pushing it, but we'll try to get at least one more guy in. So
Yeah, for sure. At least one more.
maybe someone
Sure.
kind of in the same vein, somebody that's maybe a late round pick, undrafted free agent. It's kind of the past few guys we've done, but yeah, there's a playlist. It's got everybody, from Brock Bowers back in September to, we're gonna have Bub Means posted tonight after the stream. And like always, you can go over to, for now, Google Play.
No, Google Play isn't there anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, Spotify. That's what our personal favorite. We listen to tunes over there, all the podcasts too. So, and then Discord, of course. Jay's always over there. I pop in here and there, but it's a good place. It's pretty much, like we always say, pretty much like the fantasy version of like Facebook Messenger or DMing. So
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yep. So if you guys didn't tune in last night, I was actually over there with a bunch of like 9 other guys, including myself, over there with Fantasy RPG. We did a rookie mock draft, 4 rounds. That was pretty interesting. I met a tons of different guys over there, so that was awesome. I was a little like my anxieties were like off the roof, but I think I did all right. I went back and listened to it, and I think I did all right. I kind of messed up a little bit here and there, but hey, that's these are the things that we all go through and learn and grow and whatnot. And yeah, I had fun though. It was great. So go over there and give Mike a follow on X. I can't remember his handle name, but there you can follow them up on YouTube over there, Fantasy RPG. So thanks to Mike for inviting me over there. So I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.
no, and I watch probably half the show. I was catching. Tuesdays are hard for me to be able to jump on there too, but it looked like a nice panel of guys. Looked like there was 10 guys in there doing the draft, and you held your own, buddy. I mean, you were doing well, chiming in with things. Yeah, follow Mike. Mike was great. And any thoughts on any of the any observations from the rookie draft that you did? I saw a few of the guys you drafted, but anything that stood out to you from that draft for any of the listeners?
Well, I mean, I took Ben Benson. I took him in the second. So I mean, I thought we tried to cover. Well, the other guy I did like was we covered it was Holken from Colorado State. I thought he was the other guy. If he was, yeah, if I maybe could have gotten him later on. 'Cause I don't think no one took him off the board there. But I mean, he's the other one of my favorites. I think to me, I think he's kind of like the third guy behind Senate. But other than that, no, it was actually not too bad. Javon Baker went before Mike took Baker. I was thinking about maybe taking Baker, but I kind of went with running back just because it's a couple guys that we did talk about. We talked about Ray Davis and Blake Watson. And the graphic here. I'll pop this up here like real quick here. Um, I thought he was kind of like in between like Blake Watson, Bucky, and Ray Davis there, those were the main 3 guys that were involved in the passing game quite a bit, So I mean, I think these guys will fall in, with a team somewhere, and Blake Watson might not be drafted, but, he is a guy to kinda look at. We already know about Bucky. I already kind of involved Bucky, he's one of those guys that, breaks tackles, and he's good in that pass game as well, and, the 3rd guy there was, Ray Davis. I mean, there was a few other guys too as well. They talked about a bunch of other guys as well too, so it was pretty good. It was good. So if you wanna go back and take a look at that, you can watch that from the previous day there, on our channel too as well.
And just for to plug some of our spotlights, a couple of guys Jay was talking about, the 2 tight ends, obviously Ben Sinnott and Dallin Holker. We did spotlights on them. A bunch of the running backs that were listed on that previous list, Blake Watson, Ray Davis, Bucky Irving from Oregon. We did spotlights on all 3 of those guys as well. So, like we said at the beginning of the show, if you want to go back and you want to watch any of these previous spotlights, there's a nice YouTube playlist over there. But yeah, no, I want to be involved in that. I think after the draft too, after we solidify where these guys are going to be at, I'd like to participate in a 10 or a 12 man like that. Absolutely, man. We a few of those would help out for sure. But yeah, it's right now it's kind of hypothetical because if you're drafting Michael Penix, in the rookie draft, if you're drafting him like 5th or 6th, or it could be higher. He could end up in a better situation. He could go lower. He could end up in a worse situation. Same with all these other prospects too. So, it's just a variable.
Yeah, and that's about right too. I mean, right now we're just kind of speculating, on a lot of these guys because we don't know where they're going yet. I mean, we there's all kinds of mocks out there, but we don't know the totally insides of what these teams are doing. Next thing you know, it could be a whole different, once the draft does start, next thing you know, be like, we thought this guy was gonna be a lower guy, and next thing you know, he's like drafted high. So I mean, we don't know what a lot of these teams are unless you're following a lot of these beat writers and stuff like that. You might have a slight idea, but a lot of these beat writers still don't even know.
Well, yeah, and most of these guys are full of it. They're we read, we try to do like tonight we did the draft, like Jamie's rookie dynasty draft, for example. Like we try to do some NFL headlines for the first maybe 10, 15 minutes of the stream before we get into our spotlight guy is what we've been doing. But yeah, the only news I found was it was just smoke and mirrors. The Jets, what's the likelihood of the Jets trading their 5th round pick to move up to, just goofy stuff. You hear different scenarios. Are the Giants going to take a quarterback? Are they going to take, try to take McCarthy? Or if Drake May falls a little bit, are they going to try to take him? Are they going to try to move up to 4 with the Cardinals? So it's a bunch of hypotheticals. And then I'll get your thoughts on J.K. Dobbins signing with the Chargers. I don't know. He's one of those guys because we had DeAndre Swift this past year. Obviously, he was behind that Eagles offensive line, but he never really lived up to the expectations. When he was drafted, I think in the 2nd round from Georgia by the Lions, I think 2020 or 2019. Like DeAndre never lived up to the expectations, but he had a 1,000-yard season last year. Now, do you think there's any chance? Obviously, the Chargers, they'll probably take a Blake Corum or maybe a Bucky Irving, somebody like that in the 2nd, 3rd round. We'd assume. Do you think there's any chance that J.K. Dobbins, if he's healthy, could revive his career with the Chargers? Just based on their, they don't really have a depth chart right now. When you look at their receivers and running backs, I mean, it's an open door.
Well, it's funny, J.K. Dobbins and, the other, looks like just the Raven guys are just following each other wherever they're going to go. It's kind of like a 49er. It's kind of like a 49ers going to the Dolphins. Yeah. So I'm just like, what? Why is J.K. Dobbins?
Harbaugh's, they're trading like we would if we were playing Madden or something. Harbaugh brothers, man. So I expect that more in the future. If somebody wears out their welcome, obviously they got Gus the Bus and they took Dobbins too. So yeah, it's gonna be Ravens West.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I say. Even the Chargers, they were lacking. I don't know. I think the Chargers are still going to go after a running back in here, and I think it's going to be a platoon of guys. And who knows? A lot of these guys, Dobbins could be cut too. We don't know yet until the training camps start. So it's going to be one of those things. I think. Yeah.
I just think he was a notable name because we see a bunch of these guys on these lists, and he was just a notable name to me because he was a 1st round pick. I mean, I think he was in that same 2020 draft that DeAndre Swift was in. So I mean,
It
J.K.
could be.
Dobbins was taken high, and the Ravens. Some of these skill guys, just talking about the Ravens, some of their skill guys just haven't hit. Like taking that. Bateman obviously we think is a bust. J.K. Dobbins couldn't stay on the field when he was there. He was healthy. That's why I think he's an intriguing prospect. Or an intriguing player if you're doing a dynasty or you're doing a redraft, because his stock has never been lower. J.K. Dobbins' stock has never been lower. So if he does make the team, stays healthy, I mean, we could be in for a nice surprise with him. So
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, they need the depth, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I guess we should. If anybody out there is watching, what do you guys think about the Dallas signing Freeman over there? I am. I'm just blunt, dumbfounded. I'm like, why? A lot of people are like, don't hate on him, but I'm like, we need some young guys in there. We don't need some guys who are kind of washed up, in my opinion. I mean, Freeman's been bouncing around. I mean, yeah, he's a body, he's a person, but
yeah, it's
he-
about
we need
it's
a
about
we need a big bruiser up in here. We need some guys. We need a guy that's going to come in and take this backfield over. We don't need a two-headed monster. I mean, maybe a two-headed monster. I mean, we had Zeke for a while. He was our main guy. He was taking it home. But now we need somebody to fill in what Zeke used to do. And these guys upcoming now, that's not going to cut it. It's not.
and I think this, honestly, that signing there, I think that takes away any possibility that Zeke comes back to Dallas. Because
Yeah,
there
that
was speculation. Zeke might take a pay cut, just do a last tour, come back to Dallas for one final year or something, and eat some more like he does. But yeah, I think Zeke's going to be eating. He's either going to be on a practice squad, or he's going to be eating in the UFL. He'll be playing for the Birmingham Stallions.
Well, I got some hate.
Jameis Winston and a bunch of these other NFL scrubs.
I mean, I did get some hate on Instagram here because there was some talks of my favorite guy from Old Miss, who actually supposedly lost a job over there, and I said, and I just
Matt Corral.
Yeah, supposedly he lost it to Adrian Martinez, and I'm like, whatever. I'm like, yeah, this spring stuff is a joke, and I got a bunch. You're like, you don't know anything about spring football, yada yada yada. I'm like, hey, I was just saying my opinion. I mean, I'd rather see Matt Corral, play a lot more than just 2 games. Come on now, But whatever.
We got some we got some UFL defenders here, and I know we don't usually, other than to mock the league, because they don't get nobody watches it really, and they get like 7,000 people at their games. But you got people online complaining, the Michigan, I think it's the Michigan Panthers. I'm trying to think of all the teams they have. You have fanboys, or you have people online bitching, they got 7,000 people. It's minor league football. That's not a bad turnout. You get 7,000, 10,000 people. I see the same people with wrestling with AEW. They're kind of like the number 2 company. It's the same. Their people are bitching. They only got 4,000 people in the building. They only have. Well, it's like a cut below the. I mean, there's the NFL, WWE. I mean, there's like the main shows. The main event.
Right.
The headliners. It's like there's nothing wrong. And some of these players, we remember Martinez from Nebraska. We remember Matt Corral. Matt Corral's a guy I know you've had on your dynasty team before, because we thought he'd be, some of these guys. Michael Pratt. Michael Pratt's an example. Probably a 4th, maybe 4th, 5th round pick quarterback that could have been a guy that to come in and fill some space during injuries, or if he played really well in training camp, or we thought the same way about Matt Corral that we think about Michael Pratt or somebody along those lines a few years ago, and it just never hit. But yeah, I don't like people mocking. It's just it's like apples and oranges, dude. It's not like you're saying. It's not like you were saying, Matt Corral has got a better skill set than Patrick Mahomes.
Pretty much.
Be quiet.
It's kind of sad to kind of see stuff like that. You make a comment online and it's there, and people are like, "Oh, you don't know anything. You don't know anything."
Can of worms.
It is, and the sad thing is that these people don't know who you are. You don't know what you dive into. You don't know what kind of stuff you're looking at, researching and stuff like that. And that's the bad thing about that. Unless you actually know people and whatnot, I mean, it's a whole totally different story. But I think that's enough ranting. I think we should find a guy named Bub Means. Bubby. Let's go.
Bubbly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
LA Knight's got it right. He gets it right every night. Wednesday night, time for a fight.
Yep, that's right.
Clean the hands off here. So his real name is Jared.
Oh,
He
Jared.
went to Jamie. He went to Jared.
Well, where's my ring? I don't see a ring.
I'm working on it. Jared, Bub Means. We'll call him Bub. That's kind of his, you look on his profile, that's probably going to be his NFL name. I don't think he's going to go with Jared. It's kind of a boring, bland name. Going with Bub, Bubbly. I would say, you know what? I would say that, the experts, I get it. They look at stats, and we're going to point the stats out too, because you look at his college line, it's a lot of, empty promises, not, he didn't stand out. If you were playing college fantasy, like, Jay did that a lot on Fantrax, and, if you're betting on anything, or you're a big ACC fan, you saw the Florida State game back in November, when Florida State was in the playoff hunt. You might have seen this game on TV, and he actually played pretty good against Florida State. But I mean, Bub Means is kind of guy. He's a guy that went under the radar. This is the epitome of like a raw prospect. I feel like I feel that there is a lot, because you see him on tape. I mean, you see the YouTube highlights. You've seen him live, and he blows the top off of defense. He really does. The guy, he is the definition of an outside X receiver. Big, big, strong. Had 19 reps, I think, at the combine, which, of 225, which for a receiver, I mean, that's damn good. Receivers aren't known to be strong, strong guys. That's like, corners or kickers. You think of like speed, technique. You don't think of, guy repping almost 20. So just start off like, I want to. I don't know.
Just say what you want to say, man.
It's hard because there's going to be some defenders for him, and then there's going to be people. Oh, he didn't do anything in college. He had to transfer a couple different times. And sometimes it takes a while for these guys to grow into their role or to get playing time, especially if you're at Ohio State. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. when he first got there was like the 5th or 6th receiver. We know how good Marvin Harrison Jr. is, but it depends on who's in front of you. And obviously Pitt didn't get a lot of attention because they've been a down program, I'd say. I know they made the Sun Bowl a couple years ago, but they've pretty much been a downtrodden program for a while. It's just that damn Kenny Pickett, since his dumb ass left. But anyway, so we use Draft Buzz. I get it. It's the eight. What did AWOL Nation say? Blame it on the ADD. That's what happens. I get some of that ad rock, and sometimes I jump places. I'm like Mario. I jump some steps. But yeah, we use Draft Buzz. It's usually the kind of a nice average of all the different outlets. The mocks and some of what the big networks use, just to kind of get a consensus of where these guys are at, like where their rankings are. Comps, projected maybe stats, or just so we do a bunch. We look at a bunch of different places, but Draft Buzz is the one we typically go back to. That's the one we've been using for most of these spotlights since last fall. So he's the 246th ranked prospect, which technically puts you in the 7 rounds. There's 257 picks, so by and with his raw talent, you'd assume there's a decent chance he's going to be drafted. So receiver number 34 overall over there, and he's projected on Draft Buzz to be an undrafted free agent, but I think there's a decent chance that somebody will take a risk on him, maybe up into the 6th round even. But 7th round undrafted, he'll be a guy that ends up on a practice squad for sure. I would bet money on that he's gonna be. And we'll get into the comps here in a second, but he's going to be at least somebody's number 5 receiver at some point. So the size, like I was mentioning, he's a big, strong kid, 6'1", 212, runs a 4.3, 4.43. Just that's nothing wrong with that. I like that, because there are guys that are similar size to him that are running 4.56s. They're running 4.53s, 4.6s. So he's got some wheels on him. like I was mentioning, he blows the top off a defense. The acceleration he's got. I mean, he goes from 0 to 60. I mean, this guy's a deep threat. He's like an old school receiver that we would have grown up on in the 90s and 2000s. Just a big yak guy. Catch it and catch the bombs. And you can see Jay put up the graphic there. So that's his, and I put it on the scroll as well, and in the graphic there. So his stats are, his 2019 year at Tennessee was redshirted, so he pretty much, didn't put up any stats there. 2020, because that was like the pre-NIL transfer portal where things were a little weird yet, and he had COVID going on, so he also didn't play in 2020 as well. So really, he had a 3-year career, and like I said, the stats weren't much to, some of these guys we talk about, Troy Franklin, Roma Dunze, Malik Neighbors, some of the heavy hitters. I mean, you're talking 12 to 14 touchdowns, 1,200 to 1,400 yards, maybe 14 yards a catch, 14, 15 yards a catch, somewhere in that vicinity. But Louisiana Tech in 2021, he moved over in 2020 from Tennessee, but 2021 was the 1 year he played at Louisiana Tech. 22 catches, 430 yards, couple touchdowns. Very pedestrian. And so I don't blame him for moving on to a bigger school. Louisiana Tech's Division I, but Pitt's an ACC school. It's Power 5 school. So I don't blame him for moving over there. And but in his defense, for his 2022 and 2023, he missed Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett would have been out of there by 2021. So he really hasn't been working with a good quarterback at all. The quarterback they have isn't going to get drafted. He's nowhere. He won't sniff the NFL. So 2022 at Pitt, 27 grabs, 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then this past season, a little better, and there were a couple games he popped. Like I said, he played decent against Florida State. That would have been his high profile game since Pitt didn't go to a bowl game. If you had seen him this year, it was probably the Florida State game. And like I said, he had 7 grabs, 98 yards, and a touchdown. You can see on the ticker down there. But yeah, for the year, 41 catches, a little over 700 yards, 6 touchdowns. So the stats aren't going to wow you. They're, like I said, no, some of these guys they're going to blow you away. Malik Neighbors, Troy Franklin, even some of the later guys that we like a lot, Javon Baker. There's other guys that'll blow him out of the water with their college statistics. But he's a raw guy. And I don't know, any thoughts so far, Jay, on what I've said?
Well, I was just gonna say, you mentioned, the yards might not be like the eye popper, but you have to think about like a lot of what he's been doing is almost an average of what he's consistent. He's not getting like 20, 15. It's over 25 some yards, over 30 some yards. So I mean, it's getting over that. Even though he, his 3rd year, in 2023 was actually a little bit more productive, actually being in the wide receiver 1 role this year. If you think about a lot of the previous years in 2022, he was snubbed by Jared Wayne. He was their number 1 wide receiver there. So he ended up being kind of like in the wide receiver 2 role there. So I mean, you can kind of get a give or take. And then the quarterback that they had that previous year, he put up like 2,300 some odd yards. That was before Kenny Pickett left. And then I think if he was there while Kenny Pickett was there, this would be a whole totally different ball game. We'd be talking, he'd probably be a day 2 guy, or a guy that would have been like a little bit more, it'd be a whole totally different story. But that wasn't his case. So I mean, he was, it seemed like he was always kind of pushed down, but it seemed like he got a little bit better each season. So I mean, and I think there's potential there with him, with the way he's, the way he actually had wide receiver 1 roles this year. I think there's more potential. I don't think he's met his ceiling yet. Let's just put it that way.
No. And I love all the times he's changed his number too. Maybe he'll do that in the NFL. Maybe 1 year he'll be 18. The next year he'll be 84. Maybe the next year after that be 11. So I like all the number changes and some of the stuff you're mentioning too. Yeah, he had not even close to his ceiling, and that's what he's being drafted for. Like I said, there are random receivers of other Power 5s that there's probably a random receiver we're not even thinking about right now from Oklahoma State that would have better stats than than Bub Means that, isn't going to get drafted, isn't going to play, in Canada or the UFL or any of these other leagues. So, it's the potential and the fact he's physical too. I like that. Like he'll do some blocking. He'll go over the middle. He's got strong hands. Like I said, he's strong upper body. So, I mean, at the very least, like if he could be like like an old school player, those big play receivers that would only, Plaxico Burress. I'm trying to think of, he wasn't obviously, he's not 6'6" and Plax, but I'm trying to think of like the bigger receivers back in the day that would, they'd block and then they'd catch their whatever 55 balls they'd catch like 9 touchdowns, but it was only like 55, 60 catches a year. And then they'd be blocking the rest of the time.
Kind of like
a throwback to me. It's almost
kind of like a Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin did.
See, I didn't want to see. You said it. I didn't want to go there with some of these Hall of Fame level guys, and because it's hard because he's not a blue chip guy. He was only a 3-star recruit out of high school, and obviously he's not one of not talked about in the same vein as Neighbors and Odunze and even Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. Guys like that are more first round blue chip kind of guys. So. But yeah, no, I saw it too. I saw a bunch of like elite traits just watching some of his stuff and from what I saw, I remember, like I said, I go back to that Florida State game because that was the game I remember the most, and then I remember the bowl game he had against UCLA a couple years ago. I remember he popped there too, and they have a defensive end that's getting drafted. But he's like a top 10 pick. I forget, is it Latu or something? But yeah, UCLA had a good defense a couple years ago, and he torched them too. Yeah. So a couple of the powerhouse. He wasn't doing this against Townsend or Delaware or North Dakota State. I mean, he was doing this against Power 5 schools. Some of these performances. So those corners couldn't keep up with him. What we got here? So these are some of the kind of a little bit of the fantasy stats. And like I said, it's not going to blow you away. Some of these guys, Jay, like we've said, have had, 250 to 325-ish, fantasy points, PPR. He only had, like I said, 100-yard game. But the average per catch, I mean, he's very efficient. And, he had, his 1 year at Louisiana Tech had almost 20 yards a catch. So it's like they didn't use him much, but when they did, he was going deep.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too. I mean, he saw like 41 targets with the Bulldogs. That was a 9% target share. He was getting targeted about three targets per game. Give or take in there. And when he did, they were big. And I from what I was seeing, it kind of like gradually grew. But in 2022, 49 targets, 8% target share. And just to add another target on there, 4 targets per game in 2022. And in 2023, it was kind of the all over because in 2023, they had like 3 different, quarterbacks going. They didn't really have a QB1 because they were just fluctuating between, 3 different ones, which made it hard to kind of like justify like, well, what is his target percentage? I mean, with the ones that didn't really play, it was going to be higher. The ones that maybe played lesser than the first guy, it was a little bit lesser, so I mean 22%, 36%, and 66%. I mean, it doesn't really justify because the lack of different quarterbacks in there, minimal games. So I mean, this isn't really it doesn't really say a lot, but I mean, he had averaged about 7 targets a game, so which you can kind of tell this last year. I mean, I think if they actually had a better quarterback, he had 1,000 some yards. He would have 1,000 yards. Maybe a few more.
He played with junk. I mean, when we talk about Oregon, some of these guys we've done spotlights on. Bucky Irving had Troy Franklin. He had Bo Nix. Some of these other programs there, and these are the guys. These are Power 5, man. These are the program. Even Florida State. Trey Benson and Wilson, the receiver. A couple receivers they had, Coleman, Wilson. Quarterback before he got hurt. Like some of these, bigger programs are stacked at skill position. It's like he's playing since Pickett left. Yeah, it's like he's not working with anything. So I mean, they should have fed him more. honestly, remember Ryback? Feed me more. They should have fed Bub Means more.
They should have, because means to Pittsburgh means a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
If anybody out there has any comments or any thoughts on Bub Means, put them in the comments. I mean, we'd like to hear what you guys think and what are you guys' thoughts. If you think he's going to be a undrafted guy or a day 3 guy, just put your comments out there. We like to know. We like to hear your thoughts too as well. So don't be shy. Don't be scared. Just let us know what you think. We like to hear from you guys.
Come on in. The water's fine. Come on in.
Well, I mean,
let's take a swim. Let's take a swim. Ooh, there we go. Down the comp range. Not the gun range, but the comp range. Like I said, for these guys that are going later, we had the same problem with Blake Watson. Where do you slot these guys? Obviously, because you hear other guys on the big networks or the bigger podcasts. And Jay put up his fantasy rank there for the ACC. Given what he was working with and how little he was targeted and everything, 14th ain't bad for like fantasy. Because ACC, that's still a Power 5. It's not the SEC or Big Ten, but that's still a Power 5. That's probably the 4th best conference. So I mean, that's still impressive. Just based on what he was working with. Because I think, we agree, better quarterback, better offensive line. Yeah, he would have been, or another kind of guy to get 700-800 yards at least, kind of be a sidekick. He would have had a lot more. He would have put up a lot more production. But yeah, 14th ain't bad. We've done Malik Washington, obviously. Malik just had an outstanding season. He's going to be 3rd round pickish. So some of these other guys are underclassmen.
Yeah, they are. And for what Means was working with, he had a pretty good season. Pretty much 14th in the fantasy points wise there. I mean, he did, for being in the ACC, 19th in the 41 receptions, 10th for touchdowns, and 8th, just 8th overall, and just yards, 721. So I mean, it kind of gives or take. You kind of see like where he kind of lied in there, and I'm sure there were some other guys I probably could have popped up and pulled up. I'm like, well, here was the ACC guys that would probably had a little bit better yards than Bub Means, But I mean, other than that, it's hard to kind of, when you look at these guys and think about it, like, well, does he have the talent or he doesn't have the talent? And then when you're looking at these guys, like, well, this guy could be actually on an NFL team. Where does he fall? I mean, if he does end up being undrafted, it's like there's so many options of different teams where he can maybe end up being. That's the thing about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and and hence why we do the comp range, because we're trying to give. If you guys play fantasy or somebody that plays fantasy, you were a fan of his in college, whatever your reason is for coming across this, we appreciate obviously everybody, and of course, like and subscribe. Always got to get that cheap plug-in. Yeah. But we do the comp range because we're trying to figure that out ourselves, and we ran into that same problem with Blake Watson, where these guys are late rounds. Obviously you can compare, Malik Neighbors to maybe some of the other LSU first round for top 10 guys, Jamar Chase and JJ and guys like that. It's harder with these late round guys because you're, and there's going to be a lot of debate, like I said, and Jay was mentioning, put your, thoughts down in the comments. Absolutely. Because if you think he's got a different comp range, or you think he's going to be maybe a 5th round pick, maybe you think he's going to be undrafted, maybe you think, what team he's going to end up with. We do a top 5 team list that's coming up here in a few minutes. But
yep.
I would say his low end, and you guys probably aren't going to remember him because he was hurt all last year, but Ashton Dulin from the Colts, I think, is like his floor. Just good enough to make an NFL roster. Dulin had, a few moments with Indy, but I think he's their number 5 receiver. And, like I said, he was hurt all last year. I think it was an ACL. So, a couple years of production, kind of, a couple hundred yards. And that's like the floor. So I think Bub Means is going to make an NFL roster. Just as my basis, like he's going to be somebody's at minimum 5th or 6th receiver. Minimum. That's probably where he'd start out, maybe, and especially with the new kickoffs, he might get value the first year returning kicks as well, because he's the guy's electric. Middle tier, the kid the Bengals took in the 2023 draft, and I think he's got more potential because Doolin, we kind of know what he is. He's a guy holding on to an NFL roster spot. Okay, Andre Yosivas from the Bengals. I would assume, based on losing Tyler Boyd, Trent Irwin, he's okay, but Yosivas is better than him. So, and obviously you got T. Higgins for at least one more year, and then Jamar Chase. But as like a really good number 3, number 4 receiver, I think is where most likely where he would end up. Kind of in that vein. And I had a hard time with like his ceiling, but I think Josh Palmer from the Chargers, like if everything went right, because I don't think, I don't think a guy, he's not a blue chip guy. Like I said, it's easier with a blue chip prospect that went to LSU, Ohio State, and unless somebody that fell through the cracks like Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown for a little bit was an elite number 1 receiver, until he lost his marbles. But he was from he had personal issues and was from a smaller school. But most of these guys are blue chip guys from these bigger programs. So it's going to be hard for me to say, oh, he could be a Michael Irvin, or he could be a Jamar Chase, or he could a guy on that level. I think Josh Palmer is fine. I think Josh Palmer is a really high end number 3, or could be a solid low end number receiver 2. So I think that's where Bub Means could fall into if everything went right, got in the right system, got the right coaching, and they utilized his skill set the best. Maybe a low end receiver 2, like maybe good enough to be a starting receiver in the NFL. And and it's like I said, there's going to be some debate here, and this was the longest part. We put all these stats together, and we put we kind of find his some of his background, like where he went to high school and some of these other facts about him. But the hardest part is finding the comps, because everybody's gonna have a different comp for their favorite guy, or for a guy they remember popping in college. Or so I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on those 3 guys, Jay? Or if anybody's got thoughts in watching the stream, if they want to comment too.
Well, I'm just gonna say, Means, the Chargers Means, they should draft him maybe because Palmer might mean a sidekick, because they don't have anything down there.
Yeah,
so,
Jay, some of these teams have like 9. When you look at their depth chart, there's 9 receivers or something. These guys have 4. They have 4 receivers.
Can we trust Quentin Johnson after the year he had?
Can we? Bus City population. Quentin Johnson.
What?
I honestly, to think about it, I probably would take Palmer over Quentin Johnson just because Palmer is more, he's been there. He's got the rapport with Herbert, so I would probably trust Palmer a little bit more than I would Quentin Johnson right now, and maybe add little Bub Means in there. Hell yeah, dude. I'll take Bub Means over, Quentin Johnson. That's saying a lot, but
you want to be the most watched team in the league. Chargers, now that they've got Harbaugh and they're going to be better, and Justin Herbert hopefully finally lives up to everything, has 40 touchdowns, wins an MVP, and just tears up the league. You get a guy like Bub Means, dirt cheap, possibly undrafted. Sign me up. Yep, let's go to battle. But how I came to this point is, like I said, I find guys of similar size. Yosivas, Palmer, Doolin, they're all like in that 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" range. The weight's similar. The 40 times are similar. Some of the college stats, because he didn't have a lot to work with the stats. Obviously, there was one season over 700 yards, so it wasn't the easiest to do to compile that. But just guys I watched, remember watching in the NFL, guys I went back and watched some of the highlights of these 3 guys. And yeah, I think that's a nice range, because I think he, like I said, I would bet money he's good enough to make an NFL roster, which is Doolin being the floor, and then Josh Palmer has got the potential, because I think he's better than Quentin Johnson too. I think right now, until they draft, maybe they'll take a Neighbors, maybe they'll take an Odunze, maybe they'll trade back up into the first round or something, and take one of the Brian Thomas Jr. or get Troy Franklin early second, or somewhere in that range. As of right now, yeah, Josh Palmer is their number 1 receiver. So
yeah.
That's not a bad place to be. The guy's a 3rd-round pick, and he was on Draft Buzz too, because sometimes Draft Buzz, we have his ranking at 34. Josh Palmer was way down on the list too a couple years ago when he was coming out. So sometimes, yeah. And then they had Jalen Hyatt last year. Jalen Hyatt from the Giants, they had him as the number 3 receiver. We all agree he was not the number 3 receiver in that draft class last year. He just isn't. So sometimes they're my voice is cracking. I must be going through puberty again. No. It's because that damn Jalen Hyatt. But yeah, he wasn't the number 3 receiver in last year. So sometimes this is debatable. Is Bub Means the 25th best receiver in this class coming out? With the right toolage, could he be the 10th best receiver, or is he where he's at? Fringe NFL player. So it's a wide spectrum with Bub.
Yeah, it is, and the other site I kind of like to look at is called drafttech.com, and it gives you more, kind of more of a ranking and kind of a similar kind of like where they could fall, overall ranking wise, which is not a bad site. And I was actually going to take a quick look and see, and he might not even be on here, which would be kind of crazy. I'd be like, oh no, yeah. So he's overall ranked on this site, he's 30th, but overall, like, he's 275th, like, overall rank, and that was just one rank above Joshua Cephas, who we covered just last week Wednesday. Joshua Cephas was ranked 31st on this, but 282nd overall. So I mean, these two guys are pretty similar. I call Joshua Cephas to like a mini CD Lamb because he can play both sides. That. And then Bob Means, in my eyes, is kind of like your poor man's Mike Evans, because he can actually catch the ball like just like Spider-Man. Just he's got that grippy stuff on his glue on his gloves and
wide catch, physical wide catch radius. Not quite 6'5" like Mike Evans, but yeah, you get if he was 6'5", he'd be a 1st-round pick.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
He'd have freakish attributes.
Yeah, the things that I saw, if Means can actually get the defender behind him going deep, I mean, he's good at the deep end of catching balls. And then the other thing I kind of noticed too is he, if it's more like a rookie quarterback, Means will actually play pretty close to the line. A lot of those in and outs, and where he can get a lot of those catches too as well. So I mean, that's what I saw. And then that one nice contested catch that he had over a defender playing against Florida State, that was a nice catch. So I mean, he does got some 50-50 skills a little bit there. And then pretty much the other thing I kind of saw is like, when I was kind of noticing, like, there wasn't a lot of press coverage on him, so which is why he was open a lot too. So I mean, I didn't really see a lot of defenders like getting up in his face to kind of see if he can get
because he's gonna shove you around.
Yeah,
this guy, he's got a big upper body. I mean, this is a strong guy here.
Yeah, for sure. And then my thought was actually is if he ended up on a team somewhere and a fantasy team, that I think this guy would be kind of good in the garbage time. 4th quarter, 2-minute drill. This guy, he can
Panthers. Patriots.
But that was my thought overall. Like, if he does get an opportunity to play, and if he does end up getting some receptions and get more trustworthy from the coaches and stuff like that, he could be a liable guy in the 4th quarter, with the way he can catch the ball. So those are my little thoughts on him. Anyways, that's who my comp was when to him. And I didn't really have, and I just think that there's more. We're just seeing the very tip from Bub Means, and I think his ceiling's a lot higher than what it is, and just got to find the right team to open this up.
There was a lot of sexual innuendos there. Just the tip. Gonna need somebody to open it up. Like, what kind of channel are we running here?
Yeah, you dirty-minded man. How dare you bring that up?
Been too long. If I used to have my little gavel. That used to be my little prop. We move on the segment. I hit the gavel. I can't find it right now. But you know what? Just to transition into the next segment, because I think nobody has any more thoughts, comments, that's fine. If Jay's said his piece, it's time to move on to the 5 teams. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that could take or make use of Bub Means' skill set. Let me turn on the lights real quick here. There we go. Get some sexy time.
And there was light. Oh my God.
Yeah. I feel like Ben Franklin or Thomas Edison, whatever one of those guys.
You're famous. You're famous now.
Yeah. You know what? Usually I put bad teams. I'll put the Panthers. I mock the Panthers and Patriots, as we all do, because they're garbage. Patriots are the AFC version of that. They're garbage. So, you think I would put, but you know what? They've got a few guys that that kind of fit this kind of his skill set. And I'm like, surprisingly. So I didn't put the Patriots in here, the Panthers in here. They already kind of have a few of the guys, Jonathan Mingo and Patriots, whatever's left of Juju and Tyquan Thornton and stuff. So they have a couple guys that meet. So I'm not gonna bore you with those 2 teams. I kind of mixed it up. Included a couple teams I don't usually do. So it's a nice mix here. Number 1, I put the Buffalo Bills. They have a pick late in the 7th round at 248. I think they can make use of it here. Obviously, they traded Stephon Diggs and Khalil Shakur. He's good. I mean, he's solid. I'd like him as a really good receiver 3. I think he'd be a really high-end receiver 3. I don't like him as my number 1 or my number 2. And I'm not saying Bub Means is going to come in and be their number 1 and number 2, or at least right away. But there's plenty of room for improvement. Let me pull out the just so we're accurate here. Let me pull out the old phone here. All right, let's go here.
Because
So I'll read off some of these guys, Jay. I'll see what you think, or if you've even heard of these guys. Justin Shorter, Tyrell Shavers.
Nope.
Mac Hollins is. I didn't even know Mac Hollins was still in the league. Apparently, Mac Hollins is like their number 4 receiver.
Trash. So,
Curtis Samuel, who he's actually stayed healthy with the Commanders last year, but I mean I don't trust his health. I don't. He's okay. He could be a number 3, number 4. But I mean, yeah, they don't have a number 1 guy. They really don't. If you're depending on Khalil Shakur to be your number 1 guy, you're dreaming. So I would assume they're going to take somebody high. That's why I think when we did our list of Troy Franklin makes a lot of sense there. But you're going to have to take another receiver. That receiving core is not good enough. And you can get this guy late in the 7th round, take a late round flyer. This guy could easily jump up your depth chart. But Andy Isabella, I mean, come on now.
Washed up from Arizona. Nothing. He didn't do anything.
Not a damn thing.
I mean, he was all right. I mean, he, a few plays here and there. He had some. I mean, I don't think he had over like 500 some odd yards receiving. But I mean, he is just another body in there. I mean, another, useful. That's pretty much all he is. Useful body.
That's their depth chart. That's their depth chart. And Justin Shorter, by the way, was one of these low-ranked guys on Draft Buzz too. Probably Draft Tech. Probably some of these sites that we go to. I look back. Shorter was farther down than Bub Means is now. So just because Bub Means is on that particular site that we go to is ranked 34 for this class doesn't mean that that's what it's going to end up to be. Just like we were mentioning Jalen Hyatt a couple minutes ago. Jalen Hyatt is not the number 3 receiver of the 2023 receiver class. It's just and this receiver class is stacked. If you go back and see some of the grades from some of the 2021 class, 2022 class, like this receiving, I mean, Bub Means would have been like ranked in the probably mid 20s had he been in either of those drafts. So just based on his grade overall. So this is a high end receiver draft for sure. But yeah, put the Bills at number 1. They got to upgrade, man. If they're gonna do anything, and Josh Allen too. And that affects Josh Allen's fantasy value because he can't just depend on Kincaid and then tossing it to James Cook out of the backfield. That's not going to work.
There's like 100 some 150 some odd targets that that Diggs just out there.
Stephon Diggs, you can argue how good he is or isn't anymore, but the guy was a catch and target machine. I mean that's a lot to make up for. And Khalil Shakur, to my opinion, he just isn't. He's not Stephon Diggs. He never will be. And you're going to have to find, a big outside receiver that can or piece it together and fill that role for sure. Number 2 up at the Jets. Uh, not to, and this is a place that he wouldn't be able to start right away because obviously you've got, Mike Williams, who they got from the Chargers, Garrett Wilson. He can't really do the slot. So, but I mean, in terms of a backup role with the Jets, let me name off a few of their backup receivers: Malik Taylor, Jason Brownlee. Like, who the hell are these guys? No, these are bodies. And then you got Alan Lazard, who we both agree, because Jets are going to have to save a few bucks here. I mean, they got to be up to their neck in the cap. Like, Lazard could be a cap casualty and cut very easily. So, I mean, that opens the door that you could basically, you make the team and have a good, training camp preseason. You could be Bob Means could be the number 4 receiver for the Jets before we know it.
Yeah.
And my
I
view.
mean, yeah, and I mean they just signed Mike
Gibson,
Williams.
the little receiver they have, like, he's not even that good. So I mean, there's behind Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams, there's a lot you can jump. I mean, you can jump people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure. I mean, there will be some guys. I mean, Gibson had that one good game at the opening season. I mean, game one, explosive, and then you didn't really hear from him after that. I mean, that was kind of the sad thing about it. I mean, they had Wilson as their quarterback. They couldn't really do anything. I mean, it sucked for us guys who like Garrett Wilson to actually actually continue on his great rookie season he had, and yeah, that kind of shot ourselves.
Well, because as a fantasy owner, that puts you as a fantasy owner that puts you in a bind because you're like, okay, what do I? A dynasty, it's a little easier because you're like, okay, well, Garrett Wilson, he's too good. I can't part with the guy in his second year. He's too good. Just if Rodgers goes down, I have no choice. And basically, you had to sit there and watch your fantasy team go 6-8 because you didn't have Garrett Wilson doing anything because you had the other Wilson who's garbage throwing him the football. So, yeah, it's a butterfly, like we always mentioned. It's a butterfly effect when guys go down.
Yeah, for sure.
And things happen there. And Mike Williams now has an injury history. So, I mean, there's other than Garrett Wilson, yeah, there's a lot of potential there to jump some guys and get some playing time for Bub Means. So I put the Jets at 2. Got a lot of AFC East here if you haven't noticed. I got the Dolphins coming up too. Chargers at number 3 as the I forgot to mention too, the Jets have 2 picks at the end of the 7th round. So I used one of the 2 picks. So he'd be one of the last 2 guys drafted if the Jets took him. Bub Means, undrafted free agent to the Chargers. I have them at number 3, obviously, because they have 4 receivers on the depth chart, including Darius Davis. Who the hell is Darius Davis? He's like the little slot receiver they got. Obviously you got Josh Palmer, who I've come to like Josh Palmer quite a bit, and obviously that's why I put him in the comps there. I like Josh. I think he's solid. Quentin Johnston, like I said, I think he's a bust. I think he's Rashad Bateman in waiting. He's going to be a guy that's first-round guy that's going to disappoint. See who else on the Chargers depth chart that I might mention. Oh, yeah, some guy named Simi Fehikal. Or, like, who the hell? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
who the hell are these guys?
Well, just say they're just
you can blame it, Jay. You can blame it, Jay. You can blame it on these $50 million a year quarterback contracts and these $25-30 million a year receiver contracts. Because now you're, like I said, and they're telling me Bub Means can't make rosters like this, or Cephas can't make rosters like this. I mean, come on, there are no name scrubs as teams number 4 receivers. There just is. And this team, I would assume they're going to take somebody early. They're going to take a Neighbors. They're going to take. Franklin, some maybe in the early second round, they're gonna take a receiver in the first or second round for sure. But that opens up another spot. So they're gonna draft another receiver or bring another couple guys in. Bub Means could be one of those guys, and he could work his way up real quick, like we were mentioning about the Chargers earlier. Number 4, Dolphins. I had the Dolphins on the list for Blake Watson too, and because you can't pay everybody. So, like we always say, and sometimes the cap seeps into fantasy because, okay, Tua's got to get paid. If they are going to sign him, like, Tua's got to get paid, and it's going to be 45-50 mil a year. Tyreek's making 30. Jalen Waddle just saw Devontae Smith get paid. He's every bit as good as Devontae Smith. Some people think he's better. So Waddle's going to want at least 25 mil a year. So you're going to have 2 receivers making $55 million a year, and a quarterback. Yeah. So you're going to have to find some cheap labor somewhere. Now Barrios is their slot. I don't think he's losing his job. I think Barrios is a solid slot guy, nothing special or anything. But after that, the depth chart is where I think he could fall in nice with the Dolphins.
Let's get Robbie Anderson up out of there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Good God, yeah. Yeah, some of these guys, man. River, Craycraft, Braylon Sanders, Eric Uzuna-Kanema. Like, who the hell are these guys? Who are like literally some of these guys you've never heard of, and they're like active roster guys. They're going to be guys this year getting targets. You're telling me Bub Means can't come in and be this team's, like day one, their fifth receiver? I think absolutely.
Well, that depends on who the quarterback is. They have to sign Tua, remember?
Well, that's what I'm assuming. That's what I'm assuming. I know you got to have these when you're paying two guys what you're paying them. You're going to have a bunch of other scrubbish kind of guys. So why not bring in a stud, off the street basically, because he's not going to get, in this projection he's not going to get drafted. Bring him in and get some targets and feast a little bit, making me hungry. Number 5, final team. My Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I had to slip them somewhere in there. And you know what? I like it. He's a Georgia boy, so it would have been easy to say, oh, the Falcons. Maybe the Falcons could make use of him. And possibly, but you got Drake London, and it'll be interesting to see what their new regime is going to do. I think is it Zach Robinson, like the Rams offensive guy that they brought with Raheem Morris in Atlanta. But I was thinking about that, just as a hometown guy. But Bucks have a pick in the late 7th round. Mike Evans obviously signed that 2-year deal, but he's getting a little long in the tooth, as we know. Mike Evans gonna be 31 this year. Godwin still got the slot locked down. Trey Palmer, I like as a number 3, number 4 guy. And then after that, you got Tompkins and Raheem Jarrett. He doesn't do much for me. Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller sounds like a kicker. Like, come on, Tampa, we can do better. We can bring in Bub Means and he can be our number 5 receiver day one.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I love Trey Palmer too as well. I mean, he's been a favorite of mine. I got him on some of my dynasty teams. I snagged him.
Loved him in Nebraska. Hell
yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he was pretty much a you can say pretty much his talent, he was kind of like unmarked. He's kind of like there was a lot more to him than what meets the eye. It just he hasn't hit his ceiling yet, I thought. I mean, he's good enough for them. He had some spurts here and there, and I just think if Mike Evans was gone or one of those guys were gone, that he could amp that up a little bit more and hopefully like seal the deal like a wide receiver 3 for sure.
Yeah, and they're gonna need a guy in succession. Maybe if he's a project, which he could be. I know. Bub's not a spring chicken. He's not a 21-year-old kid. He's 23. But if they wanted a project too, let him learn for a year and then come in and especially in dynasty, it's not gonna hurt. For a lot of these guys that we mentioned, it's not gonna hurt in dynasty to just stash these guys away because it can go one or two ways. It can go the Matt Corral way, where he's got potential and then he just ends up out of the league and you never know. Or it could end up the Josh Palmer way. I guarantee if you were doing dynasty a couple years ago, Josh Palmer would have been a guy off your radar. He was like a 3rd round pick, just kind of a, and not a strong receiver draft. So you probably weren't paying too much attention to him. And then all of a sudden, oh, wow, he's getting targets left to right. Wow. The Chargers just cleared out their receiver room. Like, within a couple years, Josh Palmer went from probably the 5 receiver to number 1, in just a couple years span. So, I like me and just personally because I'm obviously a fan of Bub Means. I'd love him in Tampa just on a personal level. And then could you find anywhere in Dallas for him? I mean, that's, as everybody knows, Jamie's big Cowboys fan. Like, is there any scenario he could end up with the Cowboys, maybe as an undrafted guy?
No, I mean not the Cowboys, but I was actually looking at a team here that could need some help, and that would be the Broncos, because I mean, I mean. Tim Patrick coming back for some ACL tears and a bunch of injuries.
He should just hang it up. At this point, I think that guy is just collecting an NFL check. I mean, Tim Patrick, just hang it up. Injuries, and honestly, in his peak, he wasn't that good.
Yeah.
He
Then we
the
have
whole 3-4 receiver, dude,
then
at
we
his
have
peak.
Philip Dorsett, who's been around, bouncing around with the Colts,
I remember it with the
Patriots.
Colts, but Philip
Yep.
Dorsett,
Yep. Yeah, little Jordan Humphrey, he's been around a little while. I mean, Marvin Mims, I mean, I
how
think
about
he's gonna
big
get some.
Jordan Humphrey? Get him out of here. I don't want little Jordan Humphrey.
It comes down to, I mean, they got Josh Reynolds, and then it's right now Courtland Sutton is going to be the main guy. Is Denver gonna get him re-signed, or what are they gonna be doing with Courtland Sutton? I mean, they got rid
You
of
have to.
Jerry
You
Jeudy
have
here.
to.
Yeah, I mean,
They don't have
they've
any.
had,
They don't have anybody on that level, Jay, other than Courtland Sutton. So Courtland
yeah,
Sutton, they got to pay him, and he's probably gonna want 22, 23 million. I would say I don't think he's quite a 25 to 30 million player, but he definitely in like the Terry McLaurin, from Washington in that 22, 23 range per year. So you're gonna have to pay him. And then Denver. I've included them in quite a few lists lately, so I guess I had them number one for Blake Watson. So I thought I would change it up. But yeah, definitely
yeah,
Denver would be an honorable mention here for sure.
yeah.
They need some help.
Dallas
Marvin
could be as.
Mims, I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I think I have a share of him, but I was kind of skeptical too as well. But I mean, Dallas, they're gonna have to draft somebody because I mean, I don't know if Brandon Cooks. It seems like Brandon Cooks is still on the roster, but as far as I know, I thought they released him. But maybe they are going to release him, but I'm not sure exactly there. But I mean, even if you did, I mean, Martavis Bryant, I mean, they have him on his roster, and he's old, and yeah, he's not useful. I mean, we got rid of uh Gallup. So I mean, he's no longer there. So I mean, Jalen Tolbert's going to have to step up. So we're going to have to
It's
get
for the
some.
best, by the way.
Yeah.
It's for the best. Michael he wasn't galloping anywhere. He needs to ride his way out of town.
Yeah, he didn't have a Gallup in his step at all. But
No.
yeah, I mean, they'll need some help for sure. That's for sure. So I mean, there's a couple notable mentions, Dallas and Denver, as for sure, for a couple of other teams there as well. But I think that kind of well, I mean, what do you think about the Ravens quick? I mean, just quick the Ravens. I mean, maybe he can come in and be a Rashad Bateman kind of guy.
You know what? And people are, any Gopher fans or some Raven fans even that are fanboys for Rashad will be like, oh, you just hate Rashad Bateman. Yeah, I do hate Rashad Bateman. You damn right. I ain't hiding. I hate Rashad Bateman. I think Bub Means has every bit the potential. Sam Schneider says Sutton under contract till 2025. Okay, so he is 26. Okay, so he's locked up then. Okay, so and they got a rookie quarterback coming in. I think they're just clearing. Basically, I think Denver's going to be in hell this year because of that Russell Wilson cap number and shit. So, which is every more the reason to bring in a guy like Bub Means. Bring in a young cheap stud, undrafted possibly. You don't have to pay him pennies. But yeah, the Ravens. He could be every bit as good as Rashad Bateman, probably better. Because Rashad Bateman's junk. Yeah. He's going to go down as one of the worst receiver first round picks, at least in the last decade. I mean, the guy, yeah, he's a scrub, and he works with Lamar Jackson. He works with Lamar. Like, I could understand if he was putting up these numbers with Bright, that damn Bryce Young or Daniel Jones or some other scrub. Some other Mac Jones somewhere. Yeah, Sam Schneider says Bateman is junk. You damn right he's junk. Get him out of here. Okay. They got rid of Duvernay's gone too. Like the Raven. Yeah, Raven. There's probably 15 teams. Honestly, if we extended this, if we had like a 1-5, 6-10, we could extend this. The Ravens would probably be the 7th or 8th team. Yeah, they could definitely use some help after Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, as we know, stud. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, studs. So I mean, they got the, but I think I think you take one of the tight ends even. You maybe move one of the tight ends to get a higher end receiver. They had Hollywood Brown a couple years ago, but I guess he was unhappy and wanted more money, so he bolted. But yeah. Definitely Bateman's junk. Get him out of here. Duvernay was decent, average. Got him out of there. Bub Means to the Ravens. If you're a Ravens fan, make it happen. Exit into existence.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Sam. Thank you, Sam, for tuning in. I appreciate it. Met Sam last night on Mike's show. Nice fellow out from California. But yeah, appreciate it, Sam. Thanks for stopping in and chiming in for just a couple minutes.
Yeah,
Appreciate it,
thank
man.
you. Thank
And,
you, and everybody on everybody on that stream last night did a great job. Like I said, I saw about half the show. Everybody did a great job, and I hope we can do more. I hope we can do more with Sam and Mike too, and maybe some more of these mock drafts for rookies once everybody's in position, as they would say. Everybody kind of knows where they're going to be. Maybe May, June, somewhere in there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Or before the year too. I mean, we got plenty
yeah.
of time to work with. That's the lovely thing about the NFL. You got plenty of time between May to the middle of August. So
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, and thanks to Pete for jumping in too from X as well. So appreciate that as well. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up our Bub Means conversation. And yeah, I hope and we hope that you got something out of this. That even though these guys might be down there a little bit more in the ranks, don't overlook them sometimes. I mean, we try to look at guys that actually might have a chance at actually seeing some playing time, than trying to cover guys that might not actually like see time at all. The guys like, maybe Rashad Bateman. No, I'm just
yeah. Luke McCaffrey. There's a couple guys we could mention too, and possibly do a spotlight. Like I said, we'd like to do at least one more, possibly two, but that might be harder next week with the draft. Because Jay wants to do a draft show next Thursday.
Yep.
Just a watch along or just reactions, or it'll be a lot of fun. So if you guys are anybody following on X, or anybody that comes across this video, if you're not doing anything next Thursday night, or if you just want to put us on in the background, like I know my brother has got like 5 or 6 devices up when he's watching stuff like that. He'll have like live PD on, NBA draft, maybe a stream or something. So if you want to go about it that way, but yeah, and if you want us to a special request, if you're watching this on X or commenting, Discord, any of these other places we're at, if you have a special request for a player, maybe you think he's going under the radar, maybe you think he could pop, maybe the obviously the networks have their boys. They have their 8 to 10 guys that they just shove in your face. I hope a couple of them bust, honestly. I'm tired of hearing about them. I'd love to hear more about Blake Watson, Cephas, Bub Means, maybe Luke, like I said, I brought his name, Luke McCaffrey, possibly as another spotlight guy.
Or Xavier Weaver from Colorado. He's out there. Jalen Coker from Holy Cross. I mean, there's a couple of guys that there's actually a couple guys from the Gophers that jumped on this list here not too long ago from their pro days. But you never know. If you got a request, maybe shoot me on out there in X at Algorithm Fan. Give me a follow. If there's somebody out there, or we have our Discord link in the description down below too as well. So if you want to jump on our Discord and be like, hey guys, what do you think about this? And then we can kind of go from there if there's any other, because on Thursday I want to have a live stream, for any of you guys, content creators, just to conversate, talk about like, well, this guy might go up or down, just live reactions, just from the teams that are picking, what just overall thoughts and whatnot. So that's kind of my plan for next Thursday, anyways. And I'll try to get out some links to people who actually want to join that day. It will be kind of short. I mean, I'll probably start right when the draft starts. I'll have to work that night, so I mean, I'll have to end it kind of short-ish.
So,
it might be
so
like
he
an
says, I'm gonna call him in sick. I'm gonna pretend I'm his daddy. And be like, yeah, Jamie ain't coming in. He ain't feeling too well. Hashtag Jamie sick day, so he can see the draft. That's un-American, and he's got to work the night of day 1 of the NFL draft. It's un-American.
Yeah. Yes. There we go. All right, guys. Give us a follow here if you haven't on YouTube. Give us a follow. Hit the bell for notifications. Follow me on X, Algorithm Fan. Although Eli's is weird, it's in the description below down there, so the link for his X is down there as well. And yeah, we appreciate everybody that yeah, we appreciate everybody that was viewing tonight and all the comments from everybody else. So we appreciate that, and we will catch you guys next Thursday, possibly, from the sounds of it. So other than that,
or Monday. Well, yeah, Monday we'll try to crank out another spotlight though. Monday and then Thursdays you get 2 days of us. So through sometime between now and Friday or Saturday, get us some names. Otherwise, we're gonna pick it for you. We're gonna force feed you some guy.
There
So
we go.
if you have any thoughts, but yeah, Monday you probably expect Monday and Thursday for a draft party for
Sweet. Sounds good. All right, guys. I'm Jamie. Then that's Eli. We're out of rhythm. We'll catch you guys next time. Later.